Hello, John Felt here. Welcome to the NCGA Valent Ag Weather Outlook, April 23rd, 2016. Well, I know we're in a very busy time of the year, one of the busiest times, so weather, both temperature and precipitation, is of utmost importance. And with the Ag Weather Advisor, not only do I look at the long-term pattern, so if you read my content this last week, I looked way out there through the summer. But with this type of briefing, I look at the closer in type precipitation and temperature trends. Now, the last 7 days, it was quite active over the middle part of the nation, especially Texas, Houston area where we had the severe flooding, but also extending up into Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota. And if we get into that upper Midwest, North and South Dakota in particular, we really need some additional rain. So in some of these areas, including Nebraska, it was a very welcome and needed rainfall. Now, everywhere east, much lighter precipitation. Now, there was some over parts of the eastern Corn Belt, a couple pockets of heavier precipitation there, that area in yellow over southern Illinois, a few spots in Indiana. But for the most part, the action was right in this axis, right in here. And that is really going to be an area that not just this week, but next week as well, could be a very active area. Now, temperatures really warmed up as expected this week. Over the Great Lakes, we had anomalies, warm anomalies of 10 degrees, and in some cases 12 degrees or more above normal. But pretty much the entire Corn Belt experienced above normal temperatures over the last 7 days. Now, soil temperatures here have rebounded due to that warming. You can see now we have 50-degree plus over most areas with the exception of parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. But it is warming with this unusually warm weather. We saw some significant rises in soil temperatures. Now, soil moisture is a bit more complicated to assess here, so I'm going to show you 3 different indices. First one is a model calculation, and if I look at that, it looks like we need some additional precipitation over North Dakota. Yellow and red is very dry, so especially eastern North Dakota is where we need some additional rain. This is an area wet, and pretty much everywhere else is fairly close to normal. Now here's another one that we can look at, and this is indicating over the eastern Corn Belt, generally wetter conditions. And then finally, we go to the standardized precipitation index, and this is one that's a calculated index, so it sort of calculates the soil moisture. And I sort of like this one here. It's saying the eastern Corn Belt is generally fairly neutral. This band here was that very active snow band, so we still have excessive rainfall here. And then over the Dakotas, we need some additional precipitation. So I want you to keep an eye on that. It looks like we can still use additional precipitation from Kansas, Nebraska, and right in this region right here. That's where we could use some, including down to the south. Now, there was some over the last week, but this is indicating that we could use more. The rest of the area, we sort of want to avoid it in this region, but the eastern Corn Belt we could. It's definitely Missouri, too. I want to add Missouri in here, so areas in yellow. So keep that in mind as I go through today's briefing. So the jet stream has been pushed up to the north. That's that area of brown, and that's why we've been unusually mild. Now, I want you to look at this here. This is a dip in the jet stream. When I see these little kinks here, see these little kinks here in the jet stream? Each one of these represents some energy. And when the energy ejects out of the southwest U.S., we tend to pull moisture north, and this is a severe weather type pattern. Not necessarily a major severe weather outbreak, but at least a chance of severe weather this time of year. So this week we will be having a chance of severe weather. Temperatures will remain warm over most areas, but there will be a transition back to some normal temperatures. Now I wanted to show you here the setup as of Wednesday. This is the system that's going to produce the severe weather, be earlier in the week out in the plains and then moving into the middle part of the Corn Belt towards the middle part of the week. And there's been some discrepancy on these models of how much precipitation there really would be. Some of the model runs have been wetter, some have not been as much. But here's the latest, and I think there's just a moderate confidence in this. It could change, but right now it's bringing the heaviest rain over North Texas in a very narrow axis right here. It's keeping it generally fairly modest over the eastern Corn Belt, so I think we're okay there. And if this works out, we could get some needed rain over parts of North and South Dakota. Also, parts of Missouri could get some needed rain, and we could keep things in good shape in Iowa as well. So you're never going to get a precipitation forecast that's absolutely perfect. Well, if you do, I'll let you know. Some areas will always say, I don't need the rain. Some will say, I need more rain. But I think generally speaking, this is a very decent rainfall pattern for this time of year. We don't want to get too dry going into the warmer months, and this keeps soils recharged in most areas. So let's look a little bit further ahead. Now we're getting into this is April 30th through May 5th. I apologize, I didn't change the title there. I put the images in here. You can see the jet stream is still generally to the north, but I don't see as much coloring here, and that's indicating the jet stream is getting back to about normal. And here's 6 to 10 day, and what you can see here is a bit cooler over the upper Midwest. So as we get into the 6 to 10 day behind that system, it cools off just a bit. Then if we get into the 11 through 15, and again, I apologize, the title here, this is May 3rd through 8th. So this is early May, and we're looking at temperatures again, most areas fairly close to normal. So I think as far as the temperature profile goes, the unusually warm air is going to sort of moderate back closer to normal. Now, I don't see any extreme cold, and I don't see any extreme warmth. If anything, I get the feeling that these models might be a bit on the cool side, so I wouldn't be surprised if we remain in that 5-degree above normal temperature range over most sections. Okay, so that's temperature. Let's look at precipitation. This is the anomaly for this week, and it's that very narrow band right through the middle part of the nation, some in the upper Midwest, which is needed in this area, and then pretty much neutral conditions over the eastern Corn Belt. There'll be some precipitation, but I think it's going to be sort of neutral. Now, over the Great Lakes, that's going to be problematic in some spots. That's going to definitely keep soils quite wet over parts of Wisconsin and Michigan if we do get several more inches of rain in those areas. Now, let's look at week 2. This is where it's sort of interesting. Week 2 is again showing that middle part of the U.S. axis from Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, and part of Missouri, and then diminishing further to the north and further to the east. So most of the Corn Belt, we're looking at about a normal precipitation pattern, but parts of the Corn Belt, the central core, could get back-to-back weeks of fairly heavy rain. Now, soil temperatures, this was the 23rd. You can see here that we're looking at the current soil temperatures have really pushed north. I remember it wasn't that long ago that this is the 50-degree line was just sort of lingering off to the south, really not making any difference at all. And then if we look at the forecast here, you can see it pretty much stays status quo. There's a little bit of cooler air pushing in, and that sort of pushes it down a little bit, but over most areas, it stays about where it is. So soil moisture change, this is over the next week. I just wanted to show you from this model, areas in blue are indicating areas where soils tend to get wetter, and areas in brown drier. So that's why I said the eastern Corn Belt, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, pretty much you see a little bit above, a little bit below. That's why I say pretty much neutral, some recharge areas, some not so much. Then over parts of Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, and hopefully the Dakotas, more significant recharge, and then Minnesota and Wisconsin, right now that looks like maybe the most significant recharge this week. Now there are some hazards I just wanted to point out here. There are going to be some pockets of heavy rain as outlined in green, and there is going to be a chance of severe. Right now it's slight, so there could be some severe thunderstorms, but it does not look like a major outbreak. But again, even with slight, it just takes that one tornado to cause a lot of problems. So keep in tune. That'll be mainly in the period for the next 2 to 3 days. So your takeaway points from today's briefing, it looks like the middle part of the U.S. is going to be the action spot both this week and next week, and that's the central U.S. Corn Belt. Possibility of heavy rain, severe storms in spots. Overall, temperatures look like they're going to be trending back closer to normal, or maybe a little bit above normal. The much above normal temperatures we've had look like they will be diminishing 6 days out into the 15-day range. And I think the focus for the heaviest rainfall right now looks like in the middle part of the U.S. and then diminishing further east, so above normal in the middle part of the U.S. and then probably close to normal elsewhere across the Corn Belt. So all in all, not too bad of a forecast. We're not looking at extremes one way or the other. And I think some of the anomalies we're going to have with precipitation are positive in keeping our soils recharged. I hope you have a great week. If you ever have any specific questions, you can always contact me. There's my email. Just feel free if there's something I didn't cover for your specific area, or if you have a question, feel free to send me an email. I'd like to talk to you. Take care.